Revolución Ciudadana political movement of former President Rafael Correa is leading so far the vote counts for mayors and prefects in the largest provinces of Ecuador. President of Turkish and Syrian confirmed that the death toll exceeds 2,300 people after a strong earthquake. And in the United Kingdom, health workers launched a new strike this Monday. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Revolución Ciudadana political movement of former President Rafael Correa leads so far the vote counts for mayors and prefects in the largest provinces of Ecuador in Sunday's sectional elections, with more than 90% of the ballots counted. The representatives of this political force are the virtual winners of the mayoralties of Quito, Guayaquil, Santo Domingo, Esmeraldas, Imbora, among others. RC also lists results in important prefectures such as Pichincha, Manabi, Azuay, Santo Domingo de los Tachilas, Imbabura, and Guayas. According to journalist Orlando Perez, neither persecution, infamy, harassment, or false news could beat the Ecuadorian people, who have beaten the media mafia and financial power with these results. As for the referendum called by President Guillermo Lasso, the no option is imposed and implies a popular rejection of the government's proposals on issues such as extradition, institutionalism, political repression, and the environment. It is expected that on Monday the counting of the votes will advance. As of this past Sunday in Peru, the government of Dina Boluarte decreed a state of exemption in 7 regions to contain popular unrest. The measure will be enforced for a period of 60 days in the regions of Madre de Dios, Cusco, Puno, Apurimac, Arequipa, Moquegua, and Tacna. This decree comes after 26 people were arrested the day before and another 24 others were injured by police during protests in Lima. While the state of exception is in effect, the constitutional rights relating to the inviolability of the home, freedom of transit through the national territory, freedom of assembly, and personal safety are either restricted or suspended. During this time, the Peruvian National Police will maintain domestic order with the support of the Army, except for the Puno Department, which is under Army control. Former Congresswoman Joenia Wapichana took office as president of the National Foundation for Indigenous Peoples, an organization in charge of protecting Brazil's indigenous peoples.
Because the National Foundation for Indigenous Peoples is full of lawsuits for omissions and negligence. But now we're going to reverse this role, because instead of the FUNAI persecuting the employees, instead of closing the door to the indigenous peoples, the FUNAI has to be on the side of the indigenous people. It has to be supporting them. It has to go to court not to accuse, but to protect. It is our priority for the National Foundation for Indigenous Peoples to resume the demarcation process of the indigenous lands, to do the protection, inspection, removal of minors, because they are killing our children, killing them, sexually abusing them, giving them alcohol and drugging them.
Color Vision Canal 9, the Ministry of Public Health of the Dominican Republic, reported this Monday 5 new cases of cholera in the sector of the Los Solares del Almirante in the province of Santo Domingo. After knowing the results of the corresponding analysis, it was reported that 4 men aged 82, 45, 37, and 19 years, respectively, and a woman aged 34 were positive for cholera. The patients were admitted on February 2 and 3rd. They were hydrated and stabilized, and coprological samples were taken immediately. The health authorities informed that they are maintaining an epidemiological surveillance with close relatives and a permanent intervention in the areas to detect, prevent, and investigate any suspected case of the disease. In Haiti, nearly 50 bus passengers were kidnapped in the Atribonite department, allegedly by the Cocorat Sandra gang. Blue Bus Owners and Drivers Association President Mehu Changju said that the incident took place Saturday in Liancourt, northwest of the capital, the same area where in late January 6 policemen were killed by gangs, an incident that sparked violent protests by the guild. According to the trade unionists, members of armed groups hijacked 2 buses, one belonging to the Patrick Coach Line Company, which was traveling from Port-de-Paix to Port-au-Prince, and another from the capital to St. Mark. By now, almost 100 people have been kidnapped in Haiti so far this year, while the police says it is overwhelmed by the spiral of violence sweeping the country, which has also affected its agents. Firefighters are battling to contain the spread of the fires around 3 regions near the middle of Chile's long Pacific coastline. International help began arriving on Sunday from Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Peru, Portugal, and Venezuela, who have pledged resources including planes and expert firefighting teams. President Gabriel Boric issued emergency declarations for the largely rural southern regions of Biobío, Noble, and Araucanía in an effort to speed relief. Boric said his government would provide all necessary resources, and he urged for solidarity in the face of these deadly wildfires, which have consumed about 270,000 hectares, an area roughly the size of the U.S. state of Rhode Island. Authorities reported Sunday that about 260 fires were active across the parched region, with 28 of them considered especially dangerous. The President of Chile, Gabriel Boric, thanked his Mexican counterpart, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, on Monday for sending 150 brigadistas to confront the large-scale fires affecting the center-south of the country. On his Twitter, the mandatory wrote, "International cooperation and Latin American support, President." The Mexican contingent arrived on Monday in Concepcion, capital of the Biobío region, one of the most devastated by the blazes. These forest fires are considered the deadliest in a decade and have so far caused 26 deaths and nearly 1,000 injured. Following the request for international aid, brigades from Argentina and Spain arrived in Chile, while Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, and Venezuela are preparing technical and humanitarian assistance. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. A powerful earthquake struck in southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border, killing more than 3,200 people. According to experts, this was one of the most powerful quakes in the region in the last century, while a second powerful shake hours later threatened to overwhelm rescue efforts. The magnitude 7.8 quake was followed by a second 7.7 earthquake, as rescuers in both countries were still attempting to search for survivors. Turkish and Syrian presidents said more than 2,300 people were killed, with more than 5,000 injured, and nearly 3,000 buildings had collapsed. A gas pipeline exploded in the town of Topogasi in Turkey's Hatay province, moments after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit the south of the country. Local authorities reported that 2 fires broke out at 2 points in the infrastructure, and as a precaution they stopped the flow of natural gas to several southern Turkish provinces. No casualties have been reported so far as a result of the explosion. In Syria, the Aleppo citadel, a World Heritage Site, was damaged after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck several border provinces. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake early Monday morning caused serious damage to the citadel of Aleppo, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with the collapse of part of the mill, the fence walls of the northeastern part of the great medieval palace, and most of the dome of a mosque. The monumental city of Palmyra in the Syrian province of Homs was also affected by the quake. The minaret of a large mosque was completely. The Syrian agency adds that historic buildings and private houses in Aleppo, Hama, and Tartus were also affected by the tremor, whose epicenter was in Turkey. During a telephone conversation with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin reiterated his readiness to provide the necessary assistance to his Turkish partners to mitigate the consequences of the devastating earthquakes on Monday in the southeast of the country. The Turkish president thanked his Russian counterpart for his solidarity, specifying that he will send instructions to the relevant departments of his nation to accept the help provided by the rescuers sent by Moscow, and described the first earthquake as the most powerful since 1939. Earlier, Putin held a call with the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, in which he offered to send rescue teams from the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations to Syrian territory in the next few hours, reported the press service of the Russian presidency. The Italian government said in a statement that Prime Minister Meloni is constantly updated by the Civil Protection Department on following the developments regarding the devastating earthquake. Meanwhile, Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani spoke with his Turkish counterpart Mevlut Cavusoglu to express Italy's support and offer the help of the Italian Civil Protection Department. As part of the solidarity showed by the international community after the severe earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria on Monday, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez expressed his deepest condolences to the Turkish and Syrian people and governments for the loss of life, injuries, and infrastructure damage caused by the quake. He added the island's willingness to help in taking care of the victims. Spokesperson for the European Union said on Monday the bloc had mobilized search and rescue teams to help Turkey, which had requested assistance from the EU in the wake of a devastating earthquake.
Turkey, in this context, has activated the EU civil protection mechanism, and the European Union has responded immediately. We have mobilized more than 10 urban search and rescue teams from a number of member states. These are Bulgaria, Croatia, Czechia, France, Greece, the Netherlands, Poland, and Romania to support the first responders on the ground. And in addition to that, Hungary, Italy, Spain, Malta, and Slovakia have also offered their assistance.
Circumstances.
The world has shown solidarity following a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck several regions in Syria and Turkey in the early hours of Monday. The death toll so far stands at more than 2,300 and there is at least 1,000 people injured. The governments of several countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, Iran, India, Mexico, Ecuador, and Cuba have sent messages of condolences to the victims' families, and they have expressed to the authorities their willingness to help with equipment, rescue teams, medical personnel, and medicine. Many nations have already mobilized aid to the affected regions. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. Ukrainian forces used chemical weapons along the Soledar and Artyomsk areas in the Donetsk People's Republics. According to Jan Kagan, an advisor to the head of the Donetsk People's Republic, said units commanders reported that Kiev used chemical weapons along several front lines, but mostly in the Soledar and Artyomsk ones. They added some fighters experienced severe dizziness, nausea, and vomiting as a consequence of the chemical attacks. Kagan pointed out that Ukraine had used chemical weapons before, but this time they sprayed the chemicals from the special containers installed on drones. Chinese Foreign Minister spokeswoman Mao Ning said on Monday that her nation will work with its BRICS partners to strengthen cooperation with other emerging markets and developing countries and promote BRICS membership expansion.
The Beijing Declaration adopted at the 14th BRICS Summit clearly states that BRICS supports membership expansion through discussions. China will continue to uphold the BRICS spirit of openness, inclusiveness, and win-win cooperation, and work with its BRICS partners to strengthen cooperation with other emerging markets and developing countries. We will promote BRICS membership expansion based on extensive discussions and consent through consultations.
China's Vice Foreign Minister Xi Feng on Monday urged the United States to not escalate tensions or take further action to harm the Asian giant's interests. This came in response to the shooting down of a Chinese unmanned airship that it was civilian in nature and entered U.S. airspace by accident. In remarks to the U.S. Embassy in China, Feng added his government is closely following the development of the situation and firmly opposed and strongly protested the U.S. actions. Poland's defense ministry confirmed on Monday that Patriot missile batteries the country acquired from the United States last year have been deployed to the capital Warsaw as part of military exercises. At least 3 ground-to-air missile launchers were seen at Warsaw Memowo Airport on Monday. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak said that the redeployment of the missile batteries from their base in Sochaczew to Warsaw was an important element to the training of the 3rd Warsaw Brigade of Missile Air Defense. The Patriot batteries are part of Poland's multi-billion-dollar armaments purchases from the US and South Korea. In the United Kingdom, health workers launched a new strike this Monday. Unions expect this to be the biggest strike in decades. 750,000 nursing and ambulance workers are in a wage dispute and denounce the unwillingness of the Rishi Sunak government to reach an agreement. 100 days of the Rishi Sunak government have passed and there's been no quote-unquote honeymoon because last Friday there was another railway strike and there are another 14 forces measures on the part of the workers scheduled for this month of February. India unveiled Monday's largest helicopter factory, which can turn out at least 1,000 aircraft a year. After the inauguration, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the new helicopter facility will fulfill the government's pledge to gradually reduce New Delhi's dependence on foreign countries for its defense needs. India is one of the largest arms importers in the world, and even with its recent push towards local defense production, still relies heavily on hardware from Russia, its largest and oldest military supplier. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei agreed to grant amnesty to tens of thousands of prisoners, among which are people convicted for taking part in recent protests and riots. The pardon request had been made by Iran's Chief Judiciary Gholam Hossein Mosheneheye. The decision coincided with the 44th anniversary of the Iranian Islamic Revolution, which is celebrated February 1st through the 11th. The Supreme Leader regularly issues similar pardons on occasion of various religious festivities. State news agency IRNA reported that those who participated in the protests and riots could have their sentences reduced or be pardoned altogether, provided they had not been accused of espionage, of contacting foreign intelligence agents, did not damage state property, or did not injure or kill anyone during the riots. Iran experienced a month of protests and riots sparked by the death of a young woman, Masha Amini, while in police custody last September. Amini had been arrested for wearing an inappropriate hijab. Iranian authorities denied claims that Amini's death resulted from police brutality and insisted the unrest were incited from abroad. Iran claims Washington and Brussels have used the protests as an excuse to impose additional sanctions and stir up social tensions in the country. The transitional military government in Mali has given the head of the Human Rights Division of the UN mission in Mali 48 hours to leave the country. The decision to declare Guillaume Nekva persona non grata followed an address to a UN meeting in which he accused members of the Russian military group Wagner, authorized to operate in the country by the military cabinet, of serious human rights violations. The Malian Foreign Ministry pointed out that the measure follows the destabilizing and subversive actions of Mr. Andali, who arrogates to himself the right to decide who are the representatives of civil society and ignores the authorities and national institutions. The communication adds that Andali's partiality was most evident during the last UN Security Council review of Mali. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
Deep gazes filled with